Thank you to Tiny Build Games for giving me a key to Punch Club 2, as well as a few extras which I'll be giving away to y'all. More details about that later in the video. Previously. Is it possible to beat Punch Club without punching? I beat that crocodile from earlier. I've got a girlfriend now. The league to become world champion. And now, the story continues. Welcome to Punch Club 2 Fast Forward. It's been years since the Honorable No Punch Man tried to get through his boxing career without punching. Now it's time for his son to follow in his father's footsteps and do the same. So without further ado, is it possible to beat Punch Club 2 without punching? So, before we begin, let's establish our rules. What is considered punching? I'd say that can be broken down into two parts. Firstly, when we're in a fight, any attack skill that uses one's hands is, for today's purposes, considered a punch. Additionally, anything else that we do in the game that causes an animation wherein our character punches something is not allowed either. The main way that rule might come up is in the exercises we can do, as a not insignificant portion of them involve punching, punching a bag or something. If we can get through the whole game while avoiding doing either of those two things, then that will be a successful challenge in my book. So, let's get started. After a recap of the events of the previous game, we wake up from a nap and have a heart-to-heart with our dad. Though it goes a bit, strangely. Long story short, I end up threatening to punch a humanoid lion in the face, which, isn't ideal in light of my convictions and all. I end up punching this guy repeatedly instead. So, yeah. Challenge failed within like 2 minutes, I guess. In any case, apparently I need to get to Upper City to find my father. And then I wake up from that dream and... wait a minute. That was all just a dream. Then challenge unfailed, I think. Yeah, that seems right to me. I mean, A, it was in the opening cutscene, which, oftentimes in these sorts of challenges, we don't count cutscenes as part of the challenge. And B, canonically, it wasn't real. So, yeah, I'd say our slate has been wiped clean. We are punch-free yet again. This time, let's keep it that way. Anyway, after my food dispenser breaks, I end up having to run an errand down to the local convenience store, and what do you know, as it turns out, a robbery breaks out while I'm there. And so, our first fight of the game begins. The way combat works in Punch Club 2 is as follows. You start on this pre-fight screen, where you can choose which of all the abilities you've learned up to that point you want to use. There are 3 types of abilities. Attacks, which, attack the other person. Defenses, which are things you can do in response to being attacked. And modifiers, which apply various effects to your attacks or defenses. Making these selections is in large part where the game lies, because once we've made our selections, we have no direct control over our character in the fight itself. What'll happen is that each attack phase, he'll randomly select a sequence of attacks from the ones we've set up for him that round, and when he is defending, he'll pick random defenses to use each time he's attacked. Luckily for us, we already have a basic punch and a basic kick unlocked. What this allows is for us to just select multiple instances of the basic kick and avoid even having a chance to punch. Now this strategy proves great for not breaking the rules of the challenge. It's less great at actually getting us a victory, but as far as I'm aware, this is a forced loss fight anyway, so I'm not losing any sleep over it. In the aftermath of the fight, I end up getting taken in for questioning, and I get chipped, so yay? Anyway, as it turns out, to get to Upper City, you have to have over 9,000 GPP, or Good Person Points. The way you acquire them is by beating people up, just like in real life. Naturally, that makes climbing the ranks of some fight leagues our best route towards that 9,000 GPP. So I start down that path by signing up for Silver's League. Now, of course, fighting in the league isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Sure, I win my first fight easily, but in order to stand a chance against my future opponents, I'll have to train. Unfortunately, there's a bit more to life than simply training. I also need to find time to sleep, and eat, and work a job to pay for said meals, Oh, and circling back to training, turns out that isn't free either. Sure, I can do push-ups in my own, technically my mom's home for free, but if I want to use the fancy neuro training at Silver's Gym, that costs you every time you take part in it. Alternatively, I can buy workout equipment at the junkyard, but those machines cost like 150 bucks a pop. As such, at least for now, employment will be the main focus of my life. There are 3 major employers willing to hire me. Firstly, the Japanese Yakuza is willing to hire me as a chef in a noodle restaurant. I could also work for the Russian Mafia in manufacturing, or I could work for Bobo's gang as a slime puncher. Well, I guess I know who I'm not sending my resume to. The other 2 are decent enough opportunities, though. The manufacturing gig pays a bit better and is more conveniently located, but working as a chef will increase my agility stat, whereas working in manufacturing will increase my strength stat. It's likely, for reasons we'll get into later, that we'll want to focus more so on building our agility. As such, I'll mostly work for the Yakuza, but I'll get some Mafia work in on the side as well. For right now, my training regimen consists of little more than work and push-ups. That, combined with actually learning how to dodge and adding some more specialized kicks to my arsenal, proves sufficient to get through the next few fights and get a promotion at work. This has the side effect of granting me a new fight school to utilize, Taekwondo. Fighting schools in this game you can sort of think of like being our operating system when we fight. Different schools offer different distributions between how many attacks, defenses, and modifier slots we get. Each school also has a series of passive perks it'll grant you if you include enough moves from the right family of moves. In the case of Taekwondo, the perks are Meditation, which helps us restore energy between rounds, Nimble, which increases our chance to dodge successfully, Try Harder, which lets us recover a bit of energy whenever a dodge fails, and Cornered, which gives us a chance to push our opponent back when we've been backed into a corner. Overall, given our dodge and agility heavy strategy, it's a good school for us to pursue. That being said, we'll need to learn some more moves from the school before it'll be truly effective. In the meantime, I bite the bullet and purchase some workout equipment from Grisha at the junkyard. So yay, we are no longer wholly reliant on push-ups for exercise. That being said, there is one annoying facet about buying workout equipment, which is the fact that we can't use the one that would be the most mechanically useful to us. There are 3 different pieces of workout equipment we can buy: a treadmill, a barbell, and a speed bag. They focus on increasing stamina, strength, and agility, respectively. If we're planning on training in Taekwondo primarily, then our main focus has to be increasing agility. Therefore, the speed bag would be the logical choice. There's just one problem. You use the speed bag by punching it. That means we can't use it at all. Instead, I buy a treadmill, which will at least help with energy management in my fights, since it'll increase stamina. Luckily, we do have a couple of outs to increase agility effectively without a speed bag. Firstly, let's remember that our job at the noodle shop increases agility anyway, so we've got that as just sort of passively going on. But also, we can always head down to Silver's Gym for some neuro training. As of right now, the agility increasing neuro training options are breakdancing and gymnastics, neither of which would seem to involve punching. And so we carry on like that for a while. We work, we train, mainly focusing on agility, but not neglecting stamina and strength, as higher stamina helps with energy management, as we went over earlier, and strength increases maximum health and attack power, though at the cost of our attacks costing more energy to use. We gradually unlock more moves down the Taekwondo school, which finally makes it valuable to use in fights, especially once we can fill our defenses up with better dodges from the school. Oh, by the way, just so you're aware, the way you unlock new moves in Punch Club 2 is by gaining more GPP points, so more or less by winning fights. And that serves as the status quo for a good long while, with some plot developments along the way, of course. We do want our stamina to be decent. There you go. See, this is how we do it. Teach Skinny Jenkins a lesson, too. They call me the tutor. I mean, if we could knock him— What?! His energy just shot up like crazy. Crazy? Who are you calling crazy? Like, so dodge is 5 energy, 100 wins is 4. So 100 wins is actually better. Just objectively. Not satisfied with merely watching an abridgment of this challenge? Want to see it all moment to moment without missing a beat? Consider checking out my Punch Club 2 No Punching Let's Play on my Let's Play channel. Now, the thing that really shakes up the status quo is reaching about 1000 GPP. It's at this point that I undertake a couple of pet projects which will hopefully lead somewhere good. Specifically, studying the law to potentially qualify to join the police force in the future, and remodeling this old gym that used to belong to some Mick guy. So those are just some things that I start working on the side when I've got some free time. On the fighting end of things, I finally have a somewhat respectable selection of kicks to use. I've got normal kicks, low kicks, middle kicks, high kicks, and even a spin kick to the head. I don't really have a set-in-stone strategy for how I use them. They all have slightly different ratios of energy used to damage dealt, so I often open with some high energy use, high damage kicks early in the match before tapering back in later rounds. In other news, I finally have a modifier worth using, Feint, which makes my attacks harder to dodge at the cost of a bit of energy per attack. Obviously, it's only really useful against opponents whose main defense strategy is dodging, but hey, it's something at least. I will mention though that speaking of energy, that's a bit of a problem for us right now. Basically, high agility, in addition to unlocking the moves we want, also means we get more initiative points on each of our turns, which serves to sap quite a bit of energy since we do like 5-6 moves or something before it's our opponent's turn. This makes the ending rounds of our fights pretty weak because we have to pull back to such an extent to avoid passing out mid-fight. As such, I've reached a bit of a roadblock in terms of fight difficulty. One that I intend to power through by getting that stamina up. The increased stamina works wonders. In no time, I've clawed my way to the top of Silver's League, which means now I've been invited to join Division 2 of the Professional League. This league works a bit differently since each fight you basically get to pick whether you want to take someone on who's beneath you in the rankings for a quite small GPP reward, but potentially quite large cash prize, or take on someone who's above you in the rankings at great monetary cost in exchange for a much greater potential GPP payout. Generally, I'll be choosing the latter when able to, though being able to get some quick cash is certainly appreciated. In unrelated news, shortly after joining the Pro League, I restore an AI backup of that Mick guy's consciousness, get hired as a police officer, and start a dojo. This effectively replaces my prior employment situation entirely and keeps me quite busy. But there's one big perk that comes with being a police officer: the station gym. Finally, in the form of the Wild West Simulator, I have access to a non-neuro training method of efficiently raising agility, among some other good workouts. Fighting-wise, I'm still basically using the same strategies, which usually work, but not always, as seen when I come into conflict with my nemesis, the Delivery Man. I'm not sure exactly why, but he is certainly the paper to my rock. Luckily, the pro fighters I'm going against right now go down considerably easier than a random delivery guy. Finally, a new school gives me a glimmer of hope against the Delivery Man. The Scorpion School has Meditation, but also Touch of Death, which reduces the effectiveness of enemy blocks, Brisk Move, which reduces enemy blocking chance in the first place, and Bounce, which helps knock enemies back when you're against the ropes. So yeah, this school is now basically our go-to whenever we're against someone who primarily blocks for their defense, like my nemesis. So finally, we can put that whole conflict behind us. We also got another school, the Tiger School, which is particularly effective against opponents that let you hit them. Which, I mean, doesn't really sound like the sort of thing a professional fighter would be likely to do, but I assure you it's actually a surprisingly common strategy in this game. In any case, we just sort of keep trucking along, climbing the Pro League ranks, even learning the Crystal Cobra School along the way, which doubles the damage you take, but also has some bonuses that make you more likely to dodge. I'm honestly not quite sure if it's worth it or not, but I guess we'll play around with it. You're going down, very Braveheart. Block all you want and but it's not gonna work. So please, officer, get him out of here. That's not gonna happen unless... Well, I already beat you in the fighting tournament, so I don't predict good things happening in your future. Ooh. Ugh. Come on, knock him out. Knock him down. Oh boy. No! How dare you deprive me of my drinking buddy? Ah! No, don't finish me. I finish you. Come on. What? 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 Why did he get 2 turns in a row? Alright, we have to get him. Come on, come on! Why did you stop? We're going all out. There's nothing you can do to stop this. There we go. You're down. You're dead. You're finished. You'd think being a pro fighter would pay pretty well. You'd apparently be wrong. I'm now drowning in medical bills that I have no chance of paying off through my own efforts. Now I'm stuck deciding between 2 mutually exclusive options to try to deal with this situation. Either I can try to get promoted to detective in the police force to qualify for benefits, including health insurance, or I've got to become a proper sensei in my dojo and rally the community to my cause. So either become a stooge for the corrupt government, or become a noble pillar of the community and role model for the troubled youths. I mean, the choice here is kind of obvious, isn't it? So obviously, I will be becoming a police careerist. Sure, it's not exactly the righteous path in this instance, but if I turned in my badge, I'd lose access to the police gym. Sure, I could work out at my dojo, but the exercises available there that most effectively raise agility both involve punching. So, morals be damned, I've got to keep my workout regimen stable. Sorry, Mick. Sorry, kids. Finally, I have made it to the top of Division 2. Now it's time to bring it to Division 1. Mechanically, Division 1 is identical to Division 2. It just features tougher opponents. By now, my fighting style has evolved fairly significantly thanks to some new moves. Firstly, my energy troubles have been greatly alleviated thanks to Chi concentration, which allows me to take more effective breathers mid-match. Additionally, we've got some great modifiers these days. Dance makes it so that we reduce an opponent's initiative points by 1 whenever we successfully dodge. Phantom makes us much more likely to successfully dodge in the first place, so obvious synergy there. We've got this whole series of really effective dodges that cost initiative points to use instead of energy. Now I've got initiative points to spare given my super high agility, but I'm not really sure how to waste them on dodging. Not to worry. We can have our cake and eat it too with the modifier Fake Move, which makes it so that a successful dodge restores 1 initiative point at the cost of 3 energy. So if we pair that modifier with dodges that cost 1 initiative point instead of energy, we effectively get dodges at the cost of 3 energy, which is a considerable discount energy-wise from what we would normally expect. Anyway, I think I've really come into my own as a fighter. Now it really ought to be just a matter of time before I'm at the top of Division 1. We aren't quite at the top of Division 1 just yet, but I figured I had to let you guys in on this final, almost game-breaking modification to my fight strategy. Because let me tell you, the modifier Trash Talk is insane. Basically, it makes it so that after each attack I do, I have a chance to reduce my opponent's initiative points by 1. You pair that with basic kicks, not the fancy ones that cost 2 or 3 initiative points, but literally some of the first ones we learned, or a Scorpion Sting Kick, which deals more damage with each time it's used, but also costs only 1 initiative point. And the fact that I've got like a dozen initiative points means I can get 12 shots in at reducing my opponent's initiative, and oftentimes they hardly get to act at all in the fight. I truly feel unstoppable right now, let me tell you. And rightfully so, before you know it, I've gotten to the top of Division 1. Uncovered a whole bunch of conspiracies, and I'm just a few fights away from total victory. And the fun part is that these last few fights give us access to every single move in the whole game, and let us redistribute our stats as we please. The first fight in this final sequence is against my old nemesis, and our new game-breaking strategy takes him down effortlessly. Next up is Gold, who we handle in the exact same manner, and then there's Lil Bobo, the forced loss fight from the beginning of the game. And he's actually pretty tough. Probably in large part because he's basically just me. That being the case, he has a ton of initiative points, meaning that we can't just whittle down his initiative to near 0 with our Trash Talk. And he's also insanely good at dodging, which makes it just ridiculously hard to actually land a hit on him. I guess this is how my opponents have been feeling these last few fights. But not to worry. While he may be a decent counter for our normal strategy, the way this final part of the game is structured, I can switch up my strategies pretty easily. So here's what I do. I switch my game up and try out the Flycatcher school on it, which specifically counters his dodge-heavy, agility-focused fighting style. In essence, I become the very type of fighter that has given me the most trouble in the past. I regenerate health between rounds, lower my opponent's chance to dodge, and pin him to the ropes more effectively. I tried a whole bunch of new types of kicks, and instead of dodging, I use damage tolerance, which makes it so that attacks under 12 damage are ignored. Perfect, since that's exactly what many of Little Bobo's attacks are. Low initiative, low damage kicks with some trash talk. Like a certain someone I know. Ultimately, the new strategy works. Now to fight a giant robot. I'm back to my old dodge happy self, but for this first phase, I use a kick that saps the robot's energy since its health is somewhat shielded. It works out pretty well. Next phase, I've got to focus on big, powerful attacks to get this guy's massive health bar down, while adding some vampirism to my kit to help keep me in the game long term. This phase works out pretty well too. The final phase is a bit of a different story. In this phase, the robot has perfect dodges, as in dodges that literally never fail. That means he can't be hit, which would seem to put a damper on things. And yes, I do indeed go down to Flaming Defeat, repeatedly. Even once I'd figured out my best strategy, transferring all of my stats into strength for maximum health, instead of dodging using All In, which is effectively an undodgeable counterattack that happens each time my opponent lands a hit, along with other perks and modifiers that synergize with it, it's not enough. Still, the robot defeats me since I only do a fraction of the damage back to him with my counterattack, as what he deals to me. I need to have significantly more health than the robot for the strategy to prove viable, and quite frankly, I don't have enough. But every time I lose, I gain 3 more stat points to add, allowing me to increase my strength and therefore max health just a bit each time. And so, eventually, that stat level gets high enough, the math adds up, and the unhittable robot falls. All that's left is to save my dad, or the world, and watch the game end on a cliffhanger. Well, I guess I'll see you guys in, like 5 years for Punch Club 3? But in any case, I guess the takeaway for today is that it is possible to beat Punch Club 2 without punching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and check out my No Punch challenge on the original Punch Club. And now for the giveaway. Like I said, the publisher gave me keys to spare, so I've got 3 right here that you can have a chance to win if you do at least one of the following things within 2 weeks of this video's release. The first way you can win is by leaving exactly 1 comment on this video with exactly 1 mention of Punch Club 2 in it verbatim. You also need to make sure on your YouTube channel's About page that there's some way for me to get in touch with you if you do win. Email, Twitter, some other social media, I don't care. I just need something since YouTube itself doesn't have direct messaging anymore. The second way you could win is by simply following me on Twitter. I'll just be DMing a random one of my followers with the key. And finally, the third way to win is by signing up for my email list using the link in the description. And of course, you can choose to do all 3 to increase your odds of winning. Now before I go, I of course need to thank my patrons for supporting the channel, especially my $15 tier patron, Ashford Says. But in any case, good luck if you do enter, and I know it's been a while since my last video, sorry about that, this summer has been a bit crazy for me, but stay tuned, because I think you're going to like what's coming up next. Goodbye.